Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to continue our look at painting the Stonekin Battleborn from the Relicblade game system. And as you can see, this model's flesh and armor has been done, and so now we're going to work on some other little bits such as the hair. In this video we are going to get started with Warp Fiend Gray. I almost thought it said Warp Friend. We're going to slap a little bit onto our palette. We're going to use a medium base coating brush here from Citadel, and we're just going to quickly layer this in. We've thinned it down just with the dampness of the brush. No mediums or anything like that, just a little bit of water just to thin it out ever so slightly and begin base coating. Now we will have to apply more than one layer, but really it's just following the insides of the hair, and there's really not a whole lot here, and then this is pretty much the only color we're going to use essentially. Now the reason going for this color was because he's got this purpley magenta skin, and I thought, you know what, gray hair, light gray hair would be or purpley hair would be fun. We're going to use Sage Purple with some contrast medium, basically a 1-to-1 mix ratio, and we are very carefully going to apply this into the hair. I'm leaving a little bit of the hairs at the very top of the head pretty much untouched with this color. Obviously, as we lay this in, it does change the overall value on the surface area, but everything in the recesses is getting much deeper and darker. Now we're not letting it pool up too heavily, so we will come back and draw some of the excess out as we work our way around. We only want this color to get deeper in the recess. I also do the part in between the hair. You can see I also hit some of the body. I wasn't really worried about that, as it's purple already on the body, so it'll blend right in. Here I'm laying another layer down, and I'm building the color up towards the ends of the hair, and I will do this about 3 times, working closer and closer towards the end of the hair. You see here, this first layer was about a little over halfway down, and then this final one here is on like the final quarter of the end of the hair. It's really up to you how far and how much of a gradient you want to create, but pretty much this is how I'm going about it. I begin with a light base tone, and then begin to build and create darker tones towards the ends of the hair. Initially I was going to go for fairly bright hair, but I thought, no, let's go for an in-between here. Next, we're going to come back to Warp Friend Gray, and we're going to slap a little bit onto our palette, thin it down just a little bit with the dampness of the brush, and we're going to come back to our medium base coating brush here. I'm drawing through the palette and creating a wedge shape, and then really quickly I wipe some of the excess off on my my painting rag, which is an old t-shirt, but you can just as easily use a paper towel, keeping that chisel shape, and I draw the brush very lightly across the hairs, going for a bit of an overbrush type of method. It's kind of like dry brushing, but you often have more paint on the bristles, and this is a fairly quick way of just kind of catching just the high points, going for a bit of a dry brushing, whereas dry brushing you typically are just catching the high points of a surface and obviously adding to the highlights. But whereas with this technique you end up laying more paint down, so you do have to be kind of careful of that. As you can see, I did catch one little area there that got a little bit too bright too quickly, whereas I can just quickly blend that out and bring the hair further down and just basically work with it rather than trying to come back with a deeper color and correct that. I just push it just a little bit further, again just kind of working with your little boo-boos and such, so it's not a big deal. Once we're happy with that, and you can see I don't go all the way down either, I'm going to add a little white scar to this, going kind of like a 2-to-1. It's really probably closer to a 1-to-1. And all I'm doing is I'm going to take my base coating brush here, it's a smaller brush, worked it into a chisel, drew the excess off on the rag, and then simply work the brush on the high points, similar to like before, but then I ended up opting to just kind of paint the high points of the hair, and then actually as I work my way back around, I actually work a bit more paint into that high point so that it actually is more dominantly gray at the high point, because we are going to build brighter highlights. Here I'm just following some of the front edges of the hair. Basically, I kind of like to, when I do long hair, I often like to have like a little streak of color in there, or even a white streak in the hair. Here you can see I'm simply kind of filling in those little areas, kind of knocking out some of those darker tones at the high point, and again, just going for a much brighter point at the top of the head. And then, of course, the hairs that are kind of framing the face, I'm bringing more high point to it, a brighter color to it, and so it creates a bit of a frame around that face and separation, and it just looks visually interesting. Next, we're going to come in with some more white scar. Slap this onto our palette. Now, this is more like a 2-to-1, 2 white to 1 Warp Friend gray. And here I'm, again, just catching just the high points here. I'm using a detail brush. Actually, I think this is my standard brush I end up using for most of these things, but it's more or less a detail brush, and I'm just catching just these high points, and you can see there how we have that slight gradient where it gets brighter at the top of the head. I'm leaving that part in the hair, I'm leaving that darker because oftentimes you just would have that visually much darker in that space. And then as I complete that high point on the hair, I'm going to come in and also catch the longer hairs, be much more deliberate, and follow the hairs that are basically framing his face, and I'm going to come down and put a lighter highlight on those areas. I also throw a little couple streaks in here and there onto the hairs, just to kind of catch some of the other hairs, and just really kind of bring that long hippie hair to the forefront. But otherwise, that is it. You could go even brighter, just to a pure white if you wanted to. I didn't really feel it was necessary, but that is it. That is the Stonekin Battleborn's hair. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to kind of finish off that head so far. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below, and it will take you off into another brand new brave world. Take care of those brushes, and they will take care of you.